I'm going to go ahead and call the February 24th, 2020 Town of Corte Madera Park and Recreation Commission meeting. If we can do roll call, please.
Commissioner Blomgren? Here. Commissioner Elson?
Here.
Commissioner Miles?
Here.
Commissioner Phipps? Absent. Commissioner Ravazio?
Here.
Commissioner Weingart?
Here.
Vice Chair Janowski?
Here.
Chair Casissa?
Here. If we can stand, salute the flag, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. At this time, I'll open it up for public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak on a topic that is not on the agenda? If you can just state your name, your address, and we usually keep this to 3 minutes.
The picture. Patty Stolier, 1411 Casa Buena Drive. In 2017, I rented the little corner section of the town park for a birthday party, and I was highly embarrassed by the state of the wooden benches that we had to cover entirely because they were all eaten away. And so I brought it up in 2017, and now it's 2020, and I'm bringing it up again because I think the town has $25 million a year, if I'm not mistaken, and I hope we can find money for bench work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The good news is RJ, who's head of Public Works, is here tonight, and he's taking copious notes. Thanks. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Okay, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Number 3 is we have introduction of Ashley Howe, who is our new Park and Recreation Director. So I'm going to turn it over to her and let her introduce herself. Yeah, if you don't mind, you have to use it. Our meetings are recorded.
First, thank you all for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited and eager to get started and join your team and really take Corte Madera to the next level with your assistance. So, did you want to hear just a brief background?
Sure.
Okay. Brief background of my experience that's led me here. Over 20 years of recreation experience. I have an undergrad and a master's in recreation administration. I've done everything from summer camps to swim lessons to aquatic maintenance to special events, brochures, and then also park improvement plans. So we recently did the Albert Park Improvement Project, so replacing playground equipment, researching playground equipment, building relationships with vendors, working with the California Parks and Recreation Society on different district and section and state boards. So engaged with our professional association and networked with all the other agencies within California. So not only do we not have to start from scratch, we can ask what's been done in our neighboring agencies as well as in different parts of California, so we can just hit the ball rolling. Does anybody have any questions for me? Because I'm going to be your new figure face here. We really want to engage the community. I think for me, my number one start is to really connect with the community and do a needs assessment and figure out what we've got, benchmark, and then see where we want to go and make sure it lines up with our not only council but commission goals.
Does anybody have any questions? No, it's okay. We can just as long as they're simple questions.
You'll have lots of time with me.
Simple questions. What college did you get your degrees from?
I went to Cal Poly for my undergrad, and then I have a master's from San Francisco State.
Excited to have
I also ran the youth commission, so we had a commissioner.
1,000 questions for you, so
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
absolutely. No problem.
And then you were at Sternfeld. You were also, before Sternfeld, you were over in...
Yeah, history of employment is my first full-time job with the Tiburon Peninsula Club. Started there for 5 years, went to the city of Benicia for 7.5 years, and then for Santa Fe for 5 years.
And then you're also involved with some state
The California Parks and Recreation Society is our professional association for park and recreation professionals. And I'm currently there's a bunch of different sections, so disciplines that you're related to. So whether it's administrative to educators or aquatics or recreation, I am the incoming president for the development and operations, so park maintenance and development.
We got the pro, yes.
Does anybody on the commission have any other questions? Again, as long as they're not super long or super specific. Ashley doesn't start technically until March 16th, correct?
So, yeah, the 17th. They'll start on Tuesday.
Okay. And then I'll open up for public comment. Does anybody from the public have any, again, just somewhat simple type questions, not too specific?
What drew you to the opportunity?
It was what drew me to the opportunity is, finally there's an opportunity within Marin County. I was very passionate growing up here and then working in Tiburon and Santa Fe and living in Novato to come back and really make a difference in my community. And there's a lot of great history that we have here in Corte Madera, and I've been kind of peripherally involved with some of the past leaderships. Going back to Jackie Branch and different activities. So I'm ready to jump in and take it to that next spot and really use my network that I've made within the Marin County and the state. So that's what's brought me here. Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll go ahead and close public comment.
I just wanted to add, Chair Casissa, part of what we built into tonight's agenda on item 5C, discussion and direction to staff regarding commission goals for the coming year, was done with Ashley's presence in mind, so you could have that opportunity to sort of workshop your goals and objectives before she starts, so she can know what to research and prepare for.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be taking notes, and then we have our state conference coming up the second week in March. So any ideas that I can pull or network while I'm there, it'll help us build the goals that you start brainstorming today.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to take a 2-minute recess. I like doing photo ops with the commission.
Oh, you should have warned us. God, I look like I'm a zombie.
I knew you wore shorts.
Yeah, all of us.
Do we have to stand?
Like this. I don't think we can sit.
You go next to Fred. You go next to Fred. Green chair. Chairs in front or in the back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're back in recess.
So if she's not employed yet, she doesn't really have to stay, right? You got a baby at home, you got a baby.
Okay, moving to item 4, consent calendar. These are items that may be approved by single motion. Any member of the commission, town staff, or the public may request an item for discussion to be removed, and then we can discuss it at the commission level. The only item on here are the draft minutes from January 27th, 2020. So if there's no one that wishes to pull the item, is there a motion to go ahead and approve the consent items?
I make a motion to approve them.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? Okay, going to call for the vote.
Commissioner Blomgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Elson?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles?
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps? Absent. Commissioner Ravazio?
Yes.
Commissioner Weingart?
Yes.
Vice Chair Janowski?
Yes.
Chair Casissa?
Yes. Okay, moving to item number 5, business items. 5A, discussion and possible action to approve final signage location and post size for Old Corte Madera Town Square.
Okay, I have this open. Thank you, Chair Casissa and members of the Commission. This item is being brought back to the Commission for final review and approval. It was first discussed at the June 24th, 2019 meeting. Oh, you're over there. Okay, we can turn it over to to Julie when we have a moment, but I just wanted to explain that the action before the commission tonight is to discuss and approve the proposed final signage location and post size. And the location that is recommended is at the entrance to Menke Park, Old Corte Madera Square. And the wording is for Old Corte Madera Square, and the final size and location, where did it go? 34.5 by 60, approximately 3 feet by 5 feet. And the dimension preferred by the beautification committee is the 8 by 8 inch by 8 inch posts, although the 6 inch by 6 inch posts are also the option, and attachment 3 in the packet shows the renderings depicting how the sign would look. And I will show you. Okay, as you can see in the picture, that the story poles note the preferred location of the beautification committee for the signage. This is the final draft of the signage artwork that was rendered after input from the beautification, or from the Corte Madera Parks and Recreation Commission back in June. You can see the addition of the egret. And that's what it would look like on a wooden sign. And this is what it would look like with 8 inch posts versus 6 inch posts. And Julie is here to add to the discussion and answer any questions that the commission has.
On the original sign that we proposed, there's also a piece of driftwood that goes on the top of it, that there's not a picture of that in the packet. I showed it to you at the first meeting in June that we came to. And then also on the location, where the posts are, we went back and took pictures of it just moving a little bit differently. So it's not right in front of the tree, but it's really whatever Public Works is gonna be able to, where they're gonna be able to fit the sign within that space there.
What are the posts made out of? Into the ground, are they wood, are they metal, are they?
Wood, yeah.
Yeah, painted?
They're not painted, no.
They're not painted, they're just gonna be stained.
Pressure treated. Pressure treated wood lasts a lot longer than unpressure treated wood in the ground.
I wish Bob Bundy was here tonight. He's just dealing with a sign company,
pressure
so
treated
I'm sure
wood. I know
Davis
we-
Sign
we-
Company is gonna
yeah.
do whatever lasts the longest, redwood. So,
Is it double-sided?
no,
So you only see it coming up?
yeah, you'd only be able to see it one way.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for Julie?
Questions or comments or just
Questions or comments?
I don't have it's not a question, but I really like the design. I think I really
Yeah.
like it a lot.
I have a question. So, I don't know whether this is a question or a comment. Maybe I'll wait. I don't know. This phone? Mic not on? Anybody turn?
It's on.
Hello.
My question is, did a professional designer do this, or is this kind of a do-it-yourself job? And how is it going to be? It's going to be like burned into the wood or cut into the wood, or
Cut
how?
into the wood and then
It's
painted
cut into the
black.
wood. Okay.
Yeah, Davis Sign Company.
Like cut wood. I get that Corte Madera reference. That's cool.
Allison Bricker did the design, graphic designer
Awesome.
locally.
Okay. I just have one comment, but I'll hold it for when we
After
do
public
comments.
comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody from the commission have any other questions?
No, thanks for taking our comments into consideration. The main one I think we brought up was making sure it was legible and the font size and the type, and it looks great. I think people will easily be able to read it, and thanks for all the work you guys have done on it.
Thank you.
Okay, this time I'll go ahead and open up for public comment. Again, just state your name, address, and again, we limit it to 3 minutes. Thank you. It's okay.
Everybody knows you, Julie.
Carla Condon, 5132 Paradise Drive. I just wanted to say I really like the look of it, and it sort of has special meaning because it is sort of an interpretation of the logo that we have for the town right now with the egret and the Mount Tam, which was to symbolize the unifying of both sides of Corte Madera. And also, when I worked on the developing that logo with Rick Strand, who, when the question was asked, indeed, he was a professional graphic designer and did a lot of the posters that you still see for Golden Gate Park. And so I think it's really especially meaningful because it carries on his memory as he's no longer with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Okay, I'll go ahead and close public comment, bring it back to the commission. Any other comments?
Yeah, something of a confession. I just want to put this out there and put out my feelings, and then I know that I at least tried. So the square was never called Old Corte Madera Square. We changed the name back in the 90s because there was a real confusion, because it used to be called the Village and Village Square. But then the shopping center came in and they called themselves the Village. So therefore, if you were going to tell somebody you were going to meet them somewhere, you couldn't just say the Village, because then everyone would go to Macy's instead of our old square. And it was the old historic square. So the beautification committee, with my enthusiastic endorsement, renamed it Old Corte Madera Square. And over the years, I've come to regret that, because it is our original square, and it was originally just called Corte Madera. It was downtown Corte Madera. So what I would love to do, I love the sign, I love everything about it, I would just take off the old. Just take off the word old and just call it Corte Madera Square, because that's what it is. It's downtown Corte Madera. It always was. The word old just makes me feel old now. It used to be a cool word, and now it just makes me feel old, and I don't think it's necessary. I know that the old word is on the bus stops, but I think it was a bad idea, and it was my idea, so I just want to say I think it was a bad idea, and I think we should take the word old off, but I'm certainly happy to live with it if everybody else thinks it really needs to be called Old Corte Madera Square. Thank you for listening.
Any other comments from the commissioner or questions?
Are we deciding tonight between the 6x6 and the 8x8 posts?
Yes, that was one of the requested actions.
Okay.
I don't have a preference on that.
I would have
I
to
think the
look.
8x8s look nice.
Sorry, what's that?
I like the 8x8s. I think they balance out nicely.
Okay.
And I love the idea of the driftwood or something on top. I thought that sounded cool, too. So there's just one sign, right?
Yes.
For now. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, is there a motion then to approve the sign as is using 8x8 posts?
Can I move that we do it, striking the word old from the sign, and see if I can get a second? No? Okay.
I don't feel like I know I mean, I think that's a bigger issue than us just now saying to change it.
Yeah.
You know,
I
Chair,
know.
Chair Casissa, I would need to look. I know the town I think we've installed the aluminum, the signage, the
History
point of
signs?
reference signs around the square. I don't know if that also mentioned Old Corte Madera Square in the language on the signage.
Yeah, it might.
But a lot
Good.
of
I can sleep at night now. I'm good. I'm okay.
a lot of thought and effort went into the preparation of those signs, and they may say Old Corte Madera Square on them.
Okay, I'm going to just really quick reopen public comment for 2 more minutes because Carla's waving her hands and she may be able to add to this.
Not even 2 minutes. I understand what you're saying, Pat, but also to keep in mind that when the wonderful donor of the gazebo donated the gazebo to the town, it was with the feeling that it was a old Corte Madera Square. And so it does sort of take away from what the original intent was.
His name was Wilford George, and he donated it to us. It's called Piccolo Pavilion because he played the piccolo. He was a lovely man.
Okay, with that, I'm going to close public comment. Okay, so
Is it possible for us to make a motion to approve it with the 8x8 sign with and without the old in it at the discretion of the beautification committee to decide? Old or no old? Do we have to land that?
pardon?
can we approve it and say we approve it with old, we approve it without old, 8x8 posts, and then the beautification committee can decide?
You're saying it would be on the beautification committee to figure out if they want to leave the word old in there or not old in there?
Yeah.
Do you know if they have a preference one way or the other at this point of time?
It's never come up. It's never come up.
Okay,
The old, so we have a meeting on Wednesday.
okay.
If there aren't a lot of strong feelings either way on the commission's part, I just didn't know if we could approve the move forward and have things move if we didn't have strong feelings, pro or con.
We can do that. So in other words, you want to make a motion that we approve the
Approve
sign
sign.
and leave it up to approve the sign, leave it up to the beautification committee whether to add the word old or not, and utilize 8-inch posts,
Yes.
and the location is okay?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
And we like the driftwood.
Second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay, go ahead and call for the vote. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just think Julie had something to add, and we probably want to hear what it is.
I'm just wondering if there's a lot, Julie Kritzberger. I'm just wondering if there's other things in town that are named Old Corte Madera Square that would have to be changed if it's changed to Corte Madera Square.
Well, it's not an official name. It's never been an official name, but it is, I mean,
It's on the bus
is it what everybody thinks is, do you reference it as that? Everybody does? Okay, then keep it up. I just needed to say it. I'm okay to drive by it every day. I'm fine. I don't need the word old struck.
I'm
I
just wondering, so I can bring that up to them when I talk to them on Wednesday about it. if
Okay.
The town.
I mean,
is-
my guess is they're not gonna be wanting to take that leap, that they'll think it's more of a town council decision or something bigger, and it's not worth it. I should have brought it up sooner. I wasn't here, I wasn't on the commission when you gave the initial, presentation, so it's my fault that wasn't here.
That's okay.
So,
okay.
I'm good.
Thanks.
Okay.
So do we want to leave the motion as is, or do we want to just change it and approve the sign the way it is?
I would leave the motion as is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay. Go ahead and call for the vote.
Commissioner Blomgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Elson?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles?
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps? Absent. Commissioner Ravazio?
Yes.
Commissioner Weingart?
Yes.
Vice Chair Janowski?
Yes.
Chair Kazisa?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, 5B, update from Public Works Director RJ regarding Skunk Hollow Park, green room remodel, and town park, dog park. And I'm sorry, does everybody know RJ from Public Works, by the way? Yeah, okay, thanks.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having me. Thank you. So, as Chair Casisa mentioned, we're going to talk about 3 projects tonight, give you some updates on kind of where we are in the design process and kind of where we're headed with construction. So we'll start by talking about Skunk Hollow. So photo on the right is kind of the current condition of the play structure. We've kind of bulleted out some of the goals here, and so we're trying to, fit features that kids, young 2-year-olds can also have fun in, and also, entertain those that are older in the 12-year-old range, which for a small space, there's some difficulty with that. Each individual structure kind of has a specific recommended safety and fall zone, and you don't want those to, overlap, because then you create conflict. So there's a whole kind of really design approach here that I won't get into in detail, but just be aware that some of that may drive some of the things that we're doing and the spacing and whatnot. We also want it to be ADA accessible, and we will show you, we're recommending kind of just a simple black vinyl fence in lieu of some of the, what looks to me is just kind of outdated landscaping in the front. So the total budget here is $250,000 for the project. We think we can get everything that, we're going to show tonight for that amount. And obviously, on all these projects, we're looking forward to hearing your feedback. So this is the stretch of landscaping that I was referring to, that starting at the juniper on the far left, as you swing to the right, all the large and mature trees we would leave, but just kind of all that, chest height and down brush, we would clear that, re-landscape it, and put a black vinyl fence, and just kind of open it up a little bit and just kind of make it a little more contemporary. So This is, a little, CAD graphic heavy, but we'll try to try to make it work. Yeah. Actually, if I could grab the mic. And so we have some kind of renderings or models we'll show you later, but I just want to kind of set kind of the site plan. So here's the street down here. We would have one new handicapped stall, and that would ramp up to the sidewalk there. It would all be accessible down here and through there. This is a handicapped or accessible picnic table. The plan here is to have a nice concrete perimeter, and then that kind of soft rubber matting on the inside, and then the play structure. So why this is kind of shown as an afterthought is it kind of got filled in later, but we're hoping to kind of rework the shape and put a swing set that has two older kids swings and then one bucket swing, and that would be kind of in its own bay, and I'll show you a photo of that. So this will kind of turn into more of a fish shape, if you will, with the tail here, and that'll get further designed as we go along. Most likely the play structure is going to be somewhere set in the middle. The rubber mat's going to kind of dive away and kind of be like in this almost like a what do they call that, like at a pool, like an ocean, like a beach entrance, except for it'd be a
Zero entry
sand entry right over here. So that's kind of the basic layout I just thought I'd describe. So we've met with one playground structure supplier, Compin, and worked through their options, and this is kind of what we came up with as what best fits using their tools for this site. So kind of as mentioned, play structure here in the middle. We would try to fold in this, so two regular swings and one bucket swing set over here. You got the sand area. Curious if you think a sand play table is a good feature or would not get used. And then if possible, as we get into further design, we would try to squeeze in one of these features, but we're not sure at this time if we can really make that happen with the site, the size of the site. So I can, I'm happy to take any comments now or at the end, but essentially this is kind of the 70% if we go with Compin. We have another meeting scheduled with Miracle Playgroup. This is really just a snapshot out of their, their manual or their website. So it's unlikely it's going to be this big, but you can just see just different styles, different character, and so we're going to kind of weigh those and see what comes out of it. It's a disclaimer there. So if we can get all those decisions made, we're shooting to advertise this project sometime in April and commence the project sometime June or July. And as long as we have reasonable lead times on our play structure, we think it's about 2 months worth of work.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding Skunk Hollow? We're just going to take this piecemeal instead of trying
One at a time.
all questions at the end.
I have a bunch.
I have it.
Go ahead, fire away.
Is the playground intended to be fully enclosed with this new fence? Is this a place where kids cannot escape?
So out there now, on the street side, there is no fence.
Yeah.
Because we would be trimming all those hedges and all that, we would put in the black vinyl fence. If you go to the other end, I guess it's the southeast end, there's some large trees and, some vegetation barriers. And it's also further away from, that's more of the grassy area that's
Yeah.
much further away from the play structure.
Okay.
So it wasn't, we weren't necessarily recommending a fence in that area. It's also the end of a cul-de-sac.
But the idea that this like actually intended to be a gate in this vinyl fence, and I can't get
Can you bring up the other picture? Do you mind? Thanks.
can't get an image for what a vinyl
So
fence
the
looks like.
the blue line there is about the location of the vinyl fence.
Okay.
Actually, I think it's
And it looks like you have a gate, is that right?
Is that intended to be a gate, or is that just an
there a pointer
opening?
on here?
Right now at that park,
Uh-huh,
I got it.
there's that long hedge,
yeah.
there's an opening, there's a
Yeah,
huge juniper, and then there's a gate.
Okay, sorry, I probably didn't
So I guess
clarify.
my
it.
question is like, are we gonna have a?
There will be a gate here,
Okay.
yes.
That's what I
And
got it.
then this is the black vinyl fence that would run all the way. And then it would terminate and tie into some vegetation.
Okay, so it'll be more enclosed than it is today.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the thinking behind one bucket swing versus two big kid swings on a toddler park. Instead of two toddler swings, one big kid swing.
But the primary demographic for this park was
5 to 12.
5 to 12 years old.
Well, that rotates though, the seasons and the.
Yeah, but that's what it's listed as.
Ew. Okay.
What was your thought that it would
I thought
favor
I
one?
thought this park scaled a lot younger from a usage perspective, especially given its size, that it was more of an under 5 kind of zone space, and the idea of like a 5 and up sand pit seems weird. So I feel like we've got like a sandbox for 5 and up seems not mature enough, and then we've got kind of the one baby swing and two big kid swings. So I'm now kind of confused as to the structure intention.
Is there any way we could do 4 swings, 2 of each?
It's going to add probably a good amount of cost, just because every swing that's 7 more feet, which means 7 by 10 more of rubber and more. We're kind of
Trying to minimize that.
we are kind of pushing it. So I have a almost 2-year-old. Our coworker has a 4 and a 5. He said his kids were moving to the adult swing at like 3.5, 4. Obviously,
Yeah.
every kid has
Just
their
wish
own.
they
So
wouldn't. So yeah, I have a 2 and a 4-year-old, and I'm like, oh, I hate the big kid swings because they get on them and then they fall off. But it is interesting to hear. Sorry that I missed the note that this is intended to be a 5 to 12-year-old playground, and then that kind of shapes the conversation a little bit differently. And so maybe then sand becomes something that is probably obsolete and potentially something different in that space.
There were a number of community members that came and specifically asked for
Sand?
sand
Yeah.
for free play. And I think you said like primarily 5 to 12, but trying to get some things in there for the younger. Yeah.
we're trying to fit it all within a small footprint. So.
Yeah.
And one more thing to remember is Madera del Presidio has a dedicated tot
Taylor
lot.
Park.
So,
And it's under construction right now.
right.
Yeah.
And then what's the communication plan to the community about these decisions and how these are made, so that I know that people were really vocal. How are we making sure that they're looped back into final design decisions?
I think what
Telling
we-
them that it was on the agenda tonight.
Well, I'm wondering, do we need to have another community outreach meeting once you get the designs more, I want to say closer, you have maybe some conceptual drawings based upon what you have now. I think we need to have a community meeting.
Yeah.
Or at least at one of our, the next Park and Rec Commission meeting, do significant noticing to people in that neighborhood so that they're aware that we're looking at the design concept of it, so we get input.
Just a suggestion, maybe once you have the drawings as they're going to be, post them on Nextdoor. Get Rebecca to make him a report to the community.
Okay.
We found out the other night that Nextdoor was where everyone gets their news in town right now.
I mean, I do think that's thoughtful, but I also feel like we went above and beyond for public meetings in multiple locations at multiple times and took hours of input without any expectation of final approval from those people. And at some point, the input is there, and then it's for the Public Works and for us to decide. So personally, I feel like we've done plenty for that side, and inviting what feels like approval for the public could just send this into a months-long loop again.
I've been asked by a couple people where we stand on this and what the plans are for the design, to know if any of their ideas have been incorporated. So more of, hey, we've heard you and it's happening, I think is a valid
Yeah.
answer, and
Yeah.
for people to be able to see it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
think so, too.
And I feel like just observing, having been to all those meetings and seeing all the input, the swings were big and it was hard to fit, but you guys did it. The age is right, and while we were talking about 5 to 12, I think people also talked about the younger cohort. My daughter went to preschool near there, so I went by here all the time, and during school hours, it was just moms and caretakers with really little kids. There's lots of little kids who were there. So the sand table would be appropriate in the bucket swing. So I know that there's a lot of little kids that use it. But I feel like everything you guys have done totally incorporates what the public wanted and what they didn't want. So I appreciate that.
RJ, can I just make one comment? I don't know if you're, this Miracle Play Group, just an aesthetic point. I mean, since the neighbors are in such close proximity, there's something a little more soothing about the sort of natural rock look, the greens and browns, where I feel like if I lived right next door, the other one looks kind of like circus colors and like so bright, and it's kind of fun, but I just think there might be a preference for the more natural look.
I totally agree with that. I think that keeping it natural looking, even though it's not. I mean, there's sort of stone on the
I know, that has a
on your
cool-
spaceship one, whatever that was. It kind of looks great that it's like a natural river rock kind of stone. So I agree that the bright colors. If I was going to anticipate what the neighbors would come in and say, they would not want the bright colors because they're going to fade in the sun anyway, and it's going to end up looking. It might not age as well as some of the more natural finishes.
Yeah, I tend to agree. They didn't use the word circus when they were selling their product, but they did say Euro. So,
Well, this is more in, we're natural. Keep it.
Keep it natural, man.
I have a question. Is the sand pit, it's open, right?
So you would have
Is it-
a curb, for half the moon there, and then it would be a ramp that gently falls into the pit.
Okay.
Just one thing that I know there's limited funds, but I also know that the head of the beautification committee is here. And I would love to see personally there being something associated with this where there was at least one like nice street lamp with a hanging flower basket on it. And if we could stub out that wherever the water, is there going to be water? Is there a water fountain there?
Yeah, and that was.
Yeah, there is an irrigation meter.
So maybe even in conjunction with that, so we could kind of carry the Corte Madera theme of the hanging flower baskets forward, and maybe the beautification. I heard the beautification committee was loaded with money. The Oktoberfest has been just rolling in the dough.
Does anybody else have any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, or not question. Just my kids are 5, 7, and 8, so they're right like in the where this is aimed. And having played on playgrounds by this maker before, they look really like fun and inviting, and then you get into them and there's a lot of areas where there's not really anything for the kids to do. Like the front, it's that giant stairway up to the slide on the right, but there's nothing like for the kids to play. It's almost like there's a lot of wasted space in them. And they never have monkey bars. And for girls between 5 and 12, all they care about is monkey bars and bars.
Upper body work.
And if they go to a playground where they don't have them, they're like, we want to go. There's, so this, like the hoops on the left, this looks like maybe the same maker as Dolliver Park. And that has a lot of fun stuff for climbing and slides and things like that. But I think it might be a little bit better designed and more attractive colors. But I would definitely put money in or my 2 cents in for some sort of bars or monkey bars.
They do have some interchangeable features if you can go back to the other one. Or they can also go the custom route. I mean, they might be able to do monkey bars between the two plate structures, for instance, if that was the solution. In particular, on the left side, I don't personally like that there's no small staircase up to what is the small slide. So the younger kid who's supposed to use the small slide now has to go across this wobbly bridge with holes in it. So we were going to make some of those types of adjustments, and definitely anything else you see, let us know and we'll try to incorporate it.
The tall spinner thing, kids love those.
Really?
Absolutely love them. The bucket one, not as much because somebody has to push them, but the tall one they can do on their own. and they queue up for that.
Does that include the real older kids?
Yeah.
Actually, yes.
They have
Like,
that at
actually,
home, don't they?
yes.
They have
Those,
those
I
at
mean,
home.
even like as a child, and even now, like if I go to a playground and there are those in them, like I'm going right to the spinner things. Like, I love those things.
So we just change it from 5 to 12, 5 to 18,
Yes.
17?
Perfect.
Yes. Also, for this one, it looks like there's a lot less metal, which I think is a bonus because metal tends to get really hot. And like as a child, if there was a lot of metal on a playground, like I just wouldn't go on because it would just burn my hands or my feet.
And they have some good shade in there too, which is good.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll kind of open up for public comment. Any comments from the public, Sconcalo? Okay, I'll close public comment. Any other comments from the commission? Okay, so you'll come back to us next meeting, you think?
Or just giving us.
You know, unless we want to kind of throw the schedule off, I would rather we do a neighborhood meeting or a more focused meeting and kind of talk through some of these issues. We can move forward and meet with this group and get other ideas, but after that, we would be kind of in a halt position until the next meeting, if that's where we're going to go, versus multiple iterations of different designs. So it'd be nice to set up something, you know, with whoever's really, you know, passionate about it, and then we can kind of walk through the different options.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we do a community meeting?
I mean, I don't know, or maybe just that neighborhood, if that's the
Okay.
concern. We could notice, you know, the block and nearby and see if anyone wants to have a discussion there.
Okay, when you say notice for them to just discuss with you, or can we do it through our next Park and Rec Commission meeting and just notice that we're going to be discussing this again to give them the opportunity at our next meeting?
Yeah, either or. It just depends on how quickly you want this to move. I think if we go to the park, some rec
Quicker's
move, we'll
better.
be losing a month, so that's
Yeah,
all.
quicker is better, I think.
So I have a suggestion. How about you do the neighborhood meeting with taking into account the comments that you've heard here tonight, and then you make the decision if there are still issues where they're not jibing, where the neighborhood is at odds with what the commission wants, then we bring it back. But if not, why would we not just say, go ahead? I mean, I think we could say, provided that your neighborhood meeting, and I think you should notice the same number of people that you were noticing prior, right? That was a wider, the 300, is it just the 300 feet, or are you going like, what, to a broader neighborhood?
I'm not familiar with what was noticed in the past.
Yeah, we did like next door and, you know, all through Corte
We did
Madera.
community meeting at the
So,
Cove.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
So maybe
kind
do
of-
another one of those then, right?
And
No?
again,
Was it
it's
too much?
what the commission would want to do, but I think we're going to lose the time if we come
Yeah.
back, because we won't move from, you know, where we are or after this meeting into final production
Okay.
until we know what we're producing. You know, it's detailed specs. It's a lot of, you know, just effort getting the bid package together, and so we wouldn't want to do that and then have to
Right.
toss it and redo it
Right,
again.
Right.
Okay, so what do we want to do from a commission standpoint? Do we just want to have RJ move forward with what we have and with our comments? Or do we want to cycle through one more Park and Rec Commission meeting? And when I say cycle through, maybe if you have something a little bit more defined or looks, taking our comments into consideration. Comments,
So
suggestions?
Can I just ask
Go
one
ahead.
more question? So do we have a list of the people who were really involved in providing input into this?
Yes,
Local neighbors and stuff?
yes.
So would you be willing to reach out to those people if you had a list and just do an email and say, hey,
Yeah.
here's where we are? You know, if there's anything you're really worried about, call me, otherwise we're going forward, and just make it an informal outreach to those stakeholders? I mean,
That's
if
not a
we know
problem.
who the stakeholders are, we should be able to just, you know,
Okay.
make sure we're okay with them. I mean, we don't have to go back again, because then you're likely to get, I just moved into town and
Yeah, I don't think we
want
wanna
this park
reopen
here
it.
at all, or whatever.
Okay, so why don't we move forward with that then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're
Trust you,
close, and
RJ.
if you're going to
I
go
think
back with
very
our
close.
comments and finalize it, I heard, the two main things I heard are earth tones and monkey bars, and I would agree with both of those.
So we can put it up on a webpage and make sure everyone has access, while we also notice people through email, and then we'll gather all the comments.
Okay, all right.
That's good.
I have a list of the people, I think, the primary, I'll send it to you.
I can help you with that also.
Yeah.
Okay, are we good with Scones Hollow?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Great work.
Green room remodel?
Okay, so for anyone not familiar, the green room model is the back side of the community center. You can see the kind of green box that sits underneath the green arrow over here. And it's a little small in the photo, but there's also an old kind of rickety staircase that would also need to be upgraded as part of this project. So that is the green box, and I can zoom back just so you can kind of understand it visually. And then that's the stairs. So again, different orientation, green box, and the stairs just below that is what we're looking at on this slide here.
And just for clarification, this will be the new Park and Recreation offices, basically.
Correct. So, there'll be two offices that are closed in, plus some options for kind of multi-purpose part-time workspace, kind of in the larger room. I've also heard that it's very cold in there, and so as a result, we'll be upgrading the HVAC system for this space. And then there's some minor interior finishes, sink, carpet, paint, windows, etc. I don't know if you might be able to see it here. The windows, if you can kind of squint and look on the right-hand side, the part that faces the park, they're kind of up and down and on different planes, and I think the architect has found a way to kind of just make it more, more useful, maybe a little bigger, but also have it on kind of like your typical same elevation window. So that's
So
part of the design.
One large window, or?
Let's see here if it's.
So
you can see them. They're lightly hatched there.
Oh yeah.
So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
There's a window on the corner there. That's attractive. Is that a corner window?
It looks like it, yeah. And that's the staircase design, timber design, galvanized handrail. Nothing too fancy there, but just getting rid of the old kind of rickety rundown stair and making this one meet building code.
And the door to the kitchen, that will be closed off, or that still be open? There's that stairs that go down. I think,
Where's
5 or 6
the
stairs. I think it's right there on the left-hand side.
Number 2 is, yeah.
So that I was told is being converted into a closet. So I think the access will be cut off.
Okay, a
The
closet
access to
for.
the kitchen is being cut off from the green room? I
Yeah.
don't think that's a good idea. Fire, escape, circulation, it's used all the time. We just did the crab feed Saturday night, and we were having to go back in there to do work on the stage. It's a good way to get to the backstage. I would not recommend closing that off completely. If there's any way to just leave a passageway there, I think you're making a big change there that would really make it difficult for doing events.
When you say a closet, is that a closet in the kitchen, or would that be closet in the green room?
Closet in the green room.
Okay.
But is that the entrance to the kitchen right there? That is the entrance to the kitchen?
I think it is.
That is currently the entrance to the kitchen.
Is it? Yeah.
I mean, running events, if you're managing an event and you're working in the kitchen, you can need access to the backstage, and you can also need access to stuff that maybe the same stuff won't be stored, but I mean, most of the kitchen stuff is there.
I think the one thing, though, that people are going to have to get used to is that before that area was used, I think, for either kids club or just extra storage type stuff,
yeah.
or now we're converting it into Park and Rec offices.
Okay.
So to me, we shouldn't have people from the kitchen getting to the backstage, going through Park and Rec offices.
Yeah.
I just don't think that's a good idea.
So
to
that
do.
office on the end, that's Ashley's office?
Yep.
So that closes off, there's 2 doors no, that's just a closet in the back and then there's just one door. Okay, just go to the fire marshal, make sure that we're not, I think you're, creating a dead end space and circulation is good. And I know there's limited space. So what else is the main room used for? Can we maybe expand the offices a little bit enough that you could leave that passageway? I just hate blocking off.
But you
I know how
can't
much that
have
is used.
public access to a private office after hours when nobody's in there.
No, that's what I'm saying. It should be, the offices should be closed off, but the access should be maintained if at all possible. I just think it's a mistake to close off a major access point that's been there since the beginning without really evaluating how it's going to affect people who are hosting events there.
But
They
there's
don't have a
nothing for the
green
event
room,
people
the
to
br-
access
you know,
there,
the
is
whole
there?
bridal. I mean, I know there's not a lot of weddings there, but it just, to me, it decreases the versatility of the space. And I think Ashley should have a nice big office. So why don't we move them over into the main room? What is the main room going to be used for?
Eating
Employees.
space and probably.
That's for other
Yeah.
other workers.
Mhm.
So the kids at the club will no longer have access to this space
Not
at
gonna be
all.
used at all.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
I'm still concerned about the impact on events, but, I mean.
Again, I think it's okay because again, you can't, we're now mixing public with their offices. So it'd almost be like going to Rebecca and saying, Rebecca has an office, and guess what, on the weekends, people can go through her office to use the backstage.
Oh, we do that all the time.
I'm just using her for an example.
All right, I just want to bring it up. I mean, to me, it's a really serious decision you're making, because I've been involved in events there for 30 years, and I can't remember one where, for one reason or another, we were using that space, and I'm,
Right.
I just think and I just think the fire department should be clear that it is okay that it's a dead end kind of thing with only one exit.
Yeah.
Let's have RJ talk to them and
Yeah.
move along.
Yeah, I
Just
guess,
make sure.
I don't know if the fire marshal has seen these plans or not. I would assume though, but maybe
Yeah.
you can clarify and validate that
Yeah.
if the
Maybe
architect
it's an
did it that way,
emergency
that'd
exit
be
even.
okay.
Well, so I'll get to the next bullet. We can go back, but
Yeah, you can lock the door. The door can be locked.
so we do have a building permit application submitted. It hasn't been finalized, so that's being reviewed. They'll review it for fire code and all of that. This was approved by council to bid when it's ready, and so the next step for us is to just finalize the bid package and construct it this summer. We'll definitely make sure it complies with building code and fire code. That's always going to be the case. And then, we can have some conversations about flow and whatnot and just kind of vet it by the staff using it. But I think the intent is to have it separate because, it's no longer becoming, it's becoming a workspace
Right.
instead of this multi-use space. Yeah.
And then just a question, so where do the kids go now?
There's no more kids club.
So when the summer playground happens and kids need a space inside,
They go to the
They-
shaded patio.
The outside patio is totally tented now.
oh,
They did
totally
that.
shade.
The whole
So there's
thing's
no
tented.
indoor space for them anymore.
They
Well,
use the
plus
rec
they use-
center a lot of
Intergenerational center.
They use the community center.
They use the main hall too.
Yeah, yeah. One question for you. When you say you're going to start during summer, you may want to factor in summer playground because you're going to have a lot of kids running around over there. It's just an FYI. And I think they use part of the side of the building there. I think they have like stuff for the kids to hang their backpacks and coats on. And again, you just get a lot of kids in that area. And I think people use that for drop off and pickup also. So just to give you a heads up on that.
Is there a preferred construction window?
In perfect world, I would say probably after summer playground ends. But again, I don't want to start moving things back. But you may want to talk to Ashley, or I can't remember who heads up summer playground. Talk to her,
Shanat.
and just coordinate with them. I just don't want you to do a thing where all of a sudden, there's construction trucks showing up, and then all of a sudden you're going to have to cone it off or somehow mark off a certain amount of area. Just try to coordinate with them to see if it would work during the summer.
School starts August 19th.
Okay.
And then I think usually summer playground ends
The week or
the
two
week.
before.
Yeah.
There's like 10 days before where
Right.
they're closed, I think.
So that would be August 7th.
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest before you move it out of the summer and start risking getting into the fall and the winter, that for the reasons that Fred described, look at a construction privacy fence that keeps the kids completely away from there, so there's no way they can get near that side of the building. Because if you're replacing all those windows, there's going to be, workers there and stuff coming outward. So obviously no kids are going to be near that side of the building during construction. And I think just isolating that side of the building should be doable.
And keep that in mind for July 4th also. Yeah, with everything that goes on in the park, again, if you have to fence it off, you have to fence it off.
Right.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay.
Yeah, a couple. So,
Go ahead.
so the entryway now here is going to be, it's going to say Parks and Recreation Offices, right? This is going to be I'm a little bit behind on this, I'm sorry. So this is going to be the new main office for Parks and Rec. Will the receptionist still be stationed at the front door, or will the receptionist for the rec department be stationed at the back door?
The front desk in the front office is always going to be the public counter. It's the public counter. This is just administrative offices.
So this is more of a it won't look
It's
like an
currently the
entrance for the
offices.
public at all. It
No.
won't be an entrance for the public at all. Okay.
Well,
All right.
I don't think so.
So the main room is mainly like for secretaries and people who are helping.
With seasonal
organize
staff. We have several staff. We'll have recreation coordinator, recreation assistants. They work on special events. They work on summer playground. Staffing, temporary seasonal staffing ramps up and down throughout the year. They come in and coordinate special events that are held throughout the year. Meet with coaches, planning softball and baseball and soccer and all those things. It's sort of transitional workspace that's flexible.
I'm just concerned that we're sort of kind of throwing the kids out of a space that they've used all these years.
There are currently no kids using the
No
space. This is
kids at all
currently
use it.
office space that has a hodgepodge of desks in it right now.
Yeah, I've seen
Kids
that.
Club, I think we did away with that 2 years ago, 2 years ago or so.
I'm just still catching up, back in the old days,
Any other questions?
kid space.
Okay, I'll open public comment. Okay, I'll close public comment. I'm sorry.
Go.
Go-
I'm just concerned about 4th of July and if you're gonna have construction crews out there.
You need to use the microphone to record it.
Oh,
Thank you.
Julie, you should just sit over there.
okay, Julie Kritzberger. I'm just concerned about 4th of July and if you're gonna have construction crews out there or blocking anything off, because we're pretty maxed out on the 4th of July in that parking lot and the space there, so if you could give me a heads up about what we're doing. And then is there gonna be any other location for groups that can be in the rec department? Like on July 4th, because we use that green room. And we have another group that's in that green room because the police are in the main hall. So is there another room that we would be able to use? Because we store stuff in there and there's no storing anything anywhere else, so.
I think we may have to
Intergenerational
take it offline because I don't know if it may not be a RJ question. You may have to figure that out with Ashley. Yeah.
Okay.
thank you.
She's
Aren't we
taking
glad she's
copious
here?
notes.
Yeah, and figure that out with her. And again, it depends on when you start construction too, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some flexibility. So, I mean,
Okay.
we can talk about, if he said
After the 4th.
start August 7th, we'll start August 7th.
Okay.
I mean, it's,
I would just
July
recommend you
5th.
coordinate with Ashley and
Yeah.
Ashley can coordinate with Julie.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess my question though is that there is no other location, so that'll be blocked off for offices only, and then there's the main hall, and that's the only part that we have access to
Generation
Center.
after this.
Okay.
I agree with your concern. I know that room has been a flexible, make do for various things, and I'm not really remembering all of them right now. And we've talked previously about partitioning off sort of the bar area so that things could be happening in the main hall, but you could have the area right outside the kitchen
I
for
think we're
storage
getting
and
off
so forth.
topic.
Let's give that RJ.
Well, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
look forward to how we would solve that, because I
No.
know the offices need to be somewhere.
Right. I think we're getting off topic. Let's go to dog park.
Yeah,
Thank
let's
you.
let RJ keep going, and then we can discuss that.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Oh,
here
it's
we go.
already done?
Yeah, you weren't out there today?
Perfect. It's beautiful.
Yep.
That was fast.
Quick update on Town Dog Park. So again, we've got a very tight budget, but we're really trying to fit everything in. We're optimistic we can do that. So we're going to build this one in stages as opposed to your kind of full-blown bid package and having one prime contractor do a bunch of the management. We're gonna do a lot of the management in-house. We think that'll save some money. So essentially, we've got these 4 tasks. We're gonna have to extend the water source over to the new dog park. We're gonna do the concrete work and make sure we have all the ADA facilities. We'll then come in with the fencing and the gates, and then the appurtenances such as dog wash station, drinking fountain, and all that. I'll get more into some of those details later in the presentation. And then kind of the last stage will be signage, and then we'll have our maintenance crew kind of rebuff some of the existing benches and other things, which I think are in decent condition. We're hoping to start by April, and we think this one will be about 2 months. So just not too far around the corner.
Any questions from the commission?
So here's the kind of current site plan. There's a slight variation, and in particular, there's the kind of shiny green square there, wash station. We're proposing that over fake turf with a permeable base material. So as the dogs are washed, it's filtering down. It's not creating a big puddle adjacent or a soupy mess. That can go a number of places, so we'll get to that in the next couple slides. But otherwise, on this one, just keep in mind on what we're doing here. This will be our maintenance gate on these ends. Should we need to, currently we use the gate to dump directly into the disposal right there, but that's not the only method or only way we can do that, but we like to keep that available, and then also allows us to bring in mowers and stuff should we need to mow the grass. We have kind of your combo of trash can, water and doggy water fountain, and your doggy dispensers. The icons are bigger than I think a lot of the features are. There'll be plenty of space to get through with them there on the ideally you want them on the ADA surface. We start bringing them out to the grass, and that wouldn't be compliant. We got a double gate, so hopefully eliminates or reduces dogs sneaking in and out because they have to make it through 2. And then we're proposing a 5-foot tall black vinyl fence. I think at the last iteration we weren't sure if we were going to go 4 or 5, and just looking around at other dog parks, I'm seeing a lot of 5, and it just seems like you don't want to make the mistake and get the wrong one by a foot and have a problem. I don't see a huge downside to having it be 5, so it's just 1 more foot. So here's, I'm going to show 3 options, this being number 2. So one is you could put the wash station kind of in between your double doors. Maybe that's a benefit because you're kind of corralled a little bit, and you can kind of do your, dog cleanup, right before you exit. It does kind of bump out into the middle open area, so that would probably be the downside of it. And then I'll show you the third location. Third would be it's completely out of the dog park. And so it would be on the, adjacent to the town park path there. So open to discussing any of those. And then also, these are just some of the various options that make sense. On the water fountain side, this is the one I believe that we have out now. It's got, you can fill your bottle as well as drink from it. This one has several heights for drinking. And then this is your wash station that was suggested, and it looks like a nice design. And here it is in action down on the left. All of these come in all sorts of colors, but I would think you kind of limit it to either green or stainless. Kind of makes sense to me, but we can go down the road of looking at others, but I think, yeah, green certainly makes a lot of sense. Stainless makes sense, so get your thoughts on that.
Okay. Questions?
Is there any cost advantage to keeping the water things closer together rather than not, in terms of piping and?
It's not going to be a huge factor, no.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So for the dog wash area, you mentioned using permeable floor so the water could soak in. I think people might need to use that in the winter months or the rainy months when their dogs get dirty and the ground there gets pretty wet. So I wouldn't be surprised if water doesn't soak in during the months that people need to use it. So if it was one of the options where it could actually perhaps run across the concrete or some other way to make sure it just doesn't get saturated there.
Yeah, I've got some kind of backup options.
Okay.
Should that happen, we can sleeve a box or sleeve a pipe under it, cap it, and if we need to at a later date, we can always tie in and take it somewhere else.
Okay. And then piggybacking on that idea, this year's really dry, the grass is fine out there, but in rainier months it's really wet out there. And I've suggested before that perhaps a single French drain or something going across the wettest spot, kind of right down to where the dog wash station is, might be advisable. You can wait and see next year if it's really wet. But if you do have a drain that's available to tie into, that might be something you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think, my understanding from previous discussions with, kind of people were pushing for something now and let's adjust later. And I think, given the budget, I don't think we can do the French drain now, but we can always add it in later and also see how the grass holds up. And, if we have to go to something else, whether that's mulch or something else, I'm not sure. But
Yeah, I would agree. Just wait and see.
yeah, and I visited the one at Sausalito. They have mulch and it seems okay. That being one option. I'm sure there's a handful of other options that vary in price, but
We'll probably know 2 years from now.
yeah.
Exactly.
And then where the path is, there's a 3-foot buffer or so, right, between the path and where the fence starts?
hmm
Okay,
So I think we're going to reduce it down to, I want to say 2.
okay.
And then we'll try to make that something that's more easily maintainable. So essentially the grass will probably go away. We might either put some rock in there or some asphalt or something. Otherwise, we're trying to mow this little awkward strip in there.
Right. I think we were just looking at a while back a 2 or 3 foot buffer because there's kids that walk along there. We just didn't want the fence to be too close to that path.
Yeah, and I think 2 feet is a good number. If your tire is right on the edge of the pavement and then you come up and your handlebar doesn't hit
Right.
the fence, so I think 2 feet is appropriate.
Okay.
But if you put asphalt in there, then your buffer essentially goes away.
Yeah, so I mean, if we did put asphalt, we would then delineate it either with a stripe or something visually. But again, we could put all sorts of. We could put stabilized DG in there. I'm just kind of throwing out options. But the idea of it being a distinct buffer that is low maintenance.
Okay.
And RJ, on your location of the washing station, if you wanted our input, I think I would probably vote for your first one because the idea of having it outside the fence just feels a little bit like, I don't know. I just think containing it within the dog park feels a little safer.
We're not being inclusive.
Because all the different animals,
Yes.
the animal park, sorry, not the dog park. The animal. I don't know. That's just my input. I don't feel strongly, but it just seems like it would make sense.
Questions?
To keep it inside.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sorry.
There's been a lot of conversation about the fence on the south side and where that was going to be because there's a lot of brush has grown in there, and there was some talk at some point about clearing the brush under the trees. Has that been talked about at all, or is that in the plan?
Just doing some minor trimming underneath the trees. I don't see a problem with that.
There was an original discussion about where to put the fence,
Yeah.
and there was talk of clearing the brush out under the mature trees and actually putting the fence back further.
I think originally there was an idea to actually utilize the fence where the parking lot is, to utilize that fence instead of building a new fence.
Oh, gotcha.
Do you see what I'm saying? So in other words, where the yellow line is, basically part of that would actually be moved all the way back to where the parking lot is, because there's already an existing fence there. The trees would be trimmed out enough so when dogs went there, you could still see them. And I think the thought was it would save some money because we're not building X amount of feet there. We're just leveraging off what is existing.
I just, as a dog owner, I think that would not be a good idea.
Okay.
Because if you have this area where the dogs can like run off into the trees and there's if the dogs can just run off into the trees, it's not gonna feel like a place where the owner's kind of in control of where their dog is. I don't think there should be like this secluded area where dogs can run off and not be seen. And walking that, to me, it seems like what you've done here I know we're not supposed to be commenting yet, but I think that is exactly the line that feels like the natural line, and I don't think you want to take out too much vegetation because right now that's what blocks your view from that ugly parking lot and those dumpsters and all of that. So I like leaving the vegetation, and I think the message we've heard from the community for a long time is the less asphalt, the less interfering with the natural green, the better. So, I don't think we should remove vegetation without, showing what it would look like if we did, because I think it would be ugly.
Okay. Any other questions before I open up for public comment? No?
And just
Okay.
the last point is
Go
one
ahead.
of the things that Town Manager Cusimano talked about was the potential that the town is looking at extending from the existing parking lot north, almost to where the yellow fence line is. I don't think we want to get into that area in case the town is still considering using that as parking in the future, and maybe leaving vegetation that would block that fence line in the future if it ever comes to pass is a good idea.
Okay. With that, I'll go ahead and open up for public comment. Any comments from the public? If you can just give your name, address, and you're limited to 3 minutes. Thanks.
David McPherson, Corte Madera Avenue. So first, I'm really grateful that you're going to incorporate the dog wash station, and I was pleased to see that the vendor charged like $1,500, which struck me as particularly good price for a stainless steel dog wash station with 2 sides to it and the push buttons that time it so that there's no way that someone can come along and turn on the water and it'll just be running. I would put in the vote for that dog wash location number 3. It seems to make sense to me in that if your dog is muddy and you're about to leave and go home, walk home, or go to the parking lot with the dog, put the dog in the car, that being outside of the park where the water could run off kind of is a natural progression of where you would go. So that seems to make more sense to me. And then I guess the idea of having a gate that goes to the parking lot is kind of off the table, as I understand it, for phase 1 of this construction.
Right. So we're just focused on phase 1, and then, it's just a simple black chain link fence. It wouldn't preclude it in the future if that was the goal.
And then my final comment really applies to a lot of these public works projects that we're able to do now because of the measure where we increased or voted to continue the quarter-cent property tax. I think it might be helpful for Skunk Hollow and any project that's being funded with that measure to have a simple in-house sign made that says essentially, here's your tax dollars at work, that we're grateful that you voted in this measure, and just remind people that these are the benefits that they voted for, and kind of reminds people. I was disappointed to see some of the comments about the Tamil Vista Complete Streets project where people were whining about the town has too much money, whereas the town voted for increasing funding for these projects. So if there's an opportunity to remind people that this is the good work that's being done with their money. It's be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Patty stole your Casa Buena. I don't have a dog, but what is the signage going to say? Is it going to be New Corte Madera Pet Commons or?
We'll look to the beautification committee. She's shaking her head. Okay, anybody else from the public? Okay, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Any comments from the commission?
Yeah, couple.
Go ahead.
First of all, we have talked about the rules, and we sort of have them in rough draft form, but we should probably get those on the next agenda to the community. I think we're talking about maximum of like 3 dogs per person and things like that to make sure that we don't end up becoming the place where all the professional dog walkers take their dozen dogs. But that's another aside. So all of that is happening, and anybody who wants to partake in that should come to the meetings and get involved with it. Pardon me?
Is there a name?
Is there a name? Well, I think it's Town Park Dog Park. Town Dog Park. So far, that's his working name. That's his working name. Does it need another name? We could name it after my dog.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My comments are, I think the black vinyl fence is a really nice sort of signature thing that looks a little more like Carmel than, sort of the rundown, look of a town like maybe Larkspur, which has kind of the regular old aluminum chain link fences everywhere. So I love the idea of the black vinyl fence. I hope it's not that much more expensive. The 5 foot seemed high to me, but I'll go along if everyone else thinks that's a good idea. I do think less asphalt is better. If you really do need to get rid of that grass that you just can't kind of first mow up to the fence on one side and see what happens, gravel, would be better than more asphalt. And I just want to say, I think we are really lucky to have a staff who can provide management of this project as if they are the general contractor. It really does help save the town, and you guys are so underappreciated for the value that you're bringing to the town. So I really appreciate it. And I thought I had one more comment, but I didn't write it down, so you're off the hook.
Any other comments? No? Okay, the only one I would have is on the water station part, where I think one showed, there's one where that thing has where you can fill your water bottle.
Yes, definitely.
Hold on. You may want to rethink that one, only because I don't think we want kids to start going in there, going, oh, there's a place we can fill our water bottle.
Why not?
Because you're going to start intermixing kids with dogs.
I really want to see the water bottle filled. We really need to get off the plastic water bottles, and those are a really good signature.
It's just something for consideration, because I know one thing we've been sensitive to is kids' safety type thing. So it's just for consideration.
There is another one existing right by the parking lot. So
Softball field, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Okay.
I think it is a good addition. I like it better than the dog wash, which to me seems
Okay. Any other comments?
really spoiled.
Okay. Anything else for us? Or is that enough for you?
Thank you, RJ.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate
Yes,
the work you've done. I think we've seen a lot of progress in the last 2 to 3 months than we have in the last 3 or 4 years. No, it's no offense. I mean, it's a compliment. So
Appreciate it.
He's
we
new in
appreciate
town. He
all
doesn't
the
have to
all the
take
work
blame
that
for
you guys
that.
have been doing.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
RJ.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving to 5C, discussion direction of staff regarding commission goals for 2020-21. There's some topics that are on here. We did this, I think, about a year or so ago, where we just had some goals for the commission. I talked to Rebecca, I think, last week, and we just both kind of brainstormed and came up with these. There could be others. So I just want to kind of open it up for comment from the commission. If anybody has any ideas on goals we should be setting, I'll open it up that way.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'd love to see I love this. I love that this is on the agenda and things we're getting, that's okay, I can see my phone. I think the town park master plan should also include the Park Madera Center, since we're sort of using some of those facilities already. The yoga room is now a dance studio, and Cafe Verde is hoping to open the barn. They have an option to lease out that barn for additional space for either music or kids theater or whatever. So there's some really nice opportunities for town park at the Park Madera Center. So I would just add that to that if the town council will agree to let us take that on. And I love that the town-owned properties to determine opportunities for new recreation use got on the list. I'm happy to work on that and do some background. Being a real estate agent, I can look up all the properties that are owned by the town of Corte Madera, and we can go look at them and figure out if it makes, I know the east side wants a basketball hoop and a dog park, and maybe there's ways we can make those things happen. And I think that was it. The main thing was just including Park Madera in the town park study.
Okay. Any other comments?
Mine are covered.
No other comments? Uh-oh, this is scary.
I think
Go
you
ahead.
should expand on your pop-up park idea.
Yeah.
What is that?
So a couple of my comments. One is pop-up parks. And again, I just had an idea because it seems like a lot of stuff we're doing is centered around town park. And it may be more staff generated than it is a goal type thing. But it dawned on me, I don't know if we can do like a pop-up type thing where, and again, it's all theoretical, conceptual. If you look at like where Sandra Marker Trail is, right across from DMV, maybe like on a Saturday, Park and Rec goes, hey, from 9 to 11, we're going to have a clinic for kids 5 to 7 for soccer. We don't charge them. It's just like a
Like
pop.
a special event
Yeah,
kind of thing?
but it's just like a pop-up type thing. So it's not like, 3-week type course, but it's just not spare of the moment. There'd be some planning into it. But I think we may be able to engage kids a little bit more that way. So again, it's just little things like that. And then on the use analysis of town recreational facilities, I don't know if any of our facilities are underutilized, overutilized, or utilized, on a balanced basis. A couple examples. One is the community center. I know years ago we were trying to get data as far as, how often is it really rented out. So that's, again, one place there. And something like that, we have to balance it out with the community. We don't want it rented out every single Saturday and Sunday, but I know we can never tell, again, the rental usage there. The other one also that I was thinking about is the tennis courts. I know we use the tennis courts over here for, I think, clinics and stuff like that, if I can remember. We have Granada tennis courts over at Granada. And I know we do the thing where people have a key that they can get in. There's a program for that. But I don't know if there's ever been any thoughts to having a clinic or teaching lessons over Granada tennis courts. And part of this ties back to technology. If we have people doing registration, can we tap into the registration and find out that, for the last tennis class for kids 5 to 7, that 50% are coming from the east side. So maybe there is demand to put something at Granada. Again, these are just thoughts and ideas, but I think if we go through a use analysis, that may help determine and drive some of these.
I think
But the problem is you're not going to be here to help us do that.
I'm still around. I'm not gone. Hopefully I'm not gone or forgotten. Well, maybe you will forget about me. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think this list is really focused on our facilities and not necessarily about our recreation and activities, kind of programming and plans. So I feel like there's something there that kind of comes into, Fred, what you're talking about with this usage. Like we've just built this new basketball court, but it's kind of, we build it, hope people will come, rather than like, let's proactively build a program around it. The other thing that with the sign behind RJ is making me think of, and I know that we use the researchers of the town to support when we went through the public safety power shut off, and how do we start to bring in kind of the needs of climate change into what we're doing from a Parks and Rec perspective, and how do we think about these things that we're building and designing, how can we be a leader in that? And drive those things forward to make sure that we are kind of both making sure that we're there for the public good and also that we're doing good in the same way. So whether it's kind of how we construct things and if we need to be more solar focused and whatnot, or kind of working with the town council to get funding from some of our tax paying businesses to support that, and then how can we build programming in whether it's volunteer days in the park where we do park cleanups with the kids, like they do them on the beaches, why can't we do it in town park? Those kinds of ways to kind of build a little community give back volunteering.
tagging on to that, I think I'd have a question whether or not it would be within our purview and under us to do this, but noticing all the events that we throw in town, there isn't really a focus on how to make them more sustainable environmentally, and even just switching from plastic bowls to paper bowls and doing little things. And maybe the Parks and Rec Commission, if we're going to be sort of an environmental leader, can say, here are just general guidelines for the Lions Club, the Women's Club, try to use reusable silverware, try to limit the amount of single-use plastic. We shouldn't be providing plastic water bottles anymore, just because plastic is one of the things that we know is killing the planet. So I would love to be part of just setting general guidelines. I mean, we don't have to be hardcore and, no plastic, but just, I think if we get people thinking about it, you're just kind of nudging things along a little
It's
bit.
an awareness.
Yeah, exactly. And we look like leaders. I mean, I always think it makes Corte Madera look, responsible and environmentally concerned and all those things that we want to be perceived as being. So
Should we be putting solar on the community center? Should we be putting?
So
solar
that they
panels
are
out?
discussing those things, but we could press for them for sure.
We did apply for a grant, but we did not get it. So
Next time.
there are 4 town facilities, and that was one of them that we applied for solar, as well as the kind of the power wall storage. Yeah.
And then the only thing I would add to that, and I think it's sort of part here, if you say use analysis of town recreational facilities, I'd love to talk a little more about Menke Park and how we make use of that. It's such a wonderful. Old Corte Madera Square. I'm going to lose the old. When talking about Corte Madera Square, that Menke Park is sort of underused, and I think, there's an example of, I don't know if you know who Jim Baum is. He runs the farm stand. They do a little thing in San Anselmo downtown on Wednesday afternoons, and he amalgamates the cheeses it's not like a competitive to a farmer's market at all. It's like just one little stand, and he's right now negotiating with Larkspur to go in that spot, the Nazari property across from the left bank, that little open parking lot. But they're having a hard time so he's interested in doing something like that in Corte Madera, and just ideas of how we can, I'd love to see pop-up food trucks there every Thursday night and things. So just, kind of creative thinking about how we could better use some of these underused facilities. I don't know where that fits in there, but it would be a good thing to talk about.
To me, facilities is all encompassing. It's not just a community center, but it would
means
be
parks.
Menke Park.
Yeah,
It's
facilities and
it's all
park.
encompassing.
Okay, cool.
Any other comments?
I think that we really need to look at the bathroom situation in Town Park. I feel personally
Offended.
shocked
Disgusted.
that is our bathroom situation in a park that is used so heavily by so many people. And it seems absurd to me that we cannot find a way to get more bathrooms in that park other than the porta potty situation and the bathrooms that are by the tennis courts, which are really, really awful. And then the whole east side of the park, there's nothing over there, so everybody goes into Cafe Verde. But I feel like that needs to be part of our plan moving forward with that park. And then another thing that every time I sign up for something is the website. The website is really not user-friendly. It has gotten a little bit better, but to try to go on the website and sign up for a program, or there's things where like you look in the brochure and it says, this is what's available, but you have to look in a different place to see when it's offered, or you have to go to the website to see when it's offered. And
Can I just say we were talking about that? And the staff went through training with RecPro to learn how to better utilize the software. And there are a lot more robust offerings that the software is capable of doing that we currently weren't taking advantage of. And hopefully you'll see some changes soon.
that would be great, because I know I personally have tried to sign up for something, gotten frustrated, had to give up and go back to work and come back to it. But how many people don't come back to it? So I think we're losing opportunities there.
Okay. Any other comments before public comment?
I would echo Commissioner Ellison's point on the bathrooms, but we do have a running list somewhere about all our
Yeah,
wish list
that's
of
under-
things to fix, and I'm hoping that is just all incorporated in the master plan.
Yeah.
But certainly we've been through that list at least twice
Well, and I think even kind of thinking about moving that up, because I think as people see us making other improvements in the park and then still not improving the bathrooms, it could end up being like a public relations issue. Like if, you know, we got a great place for the dogs to get washed, but for humans to go to the bathroom, it's not so
There's no
nice.
soap,
So
so, yeah.
I think we just should think about,
There's no toilets.
you know, what we're demonstrating in terms of our priorities.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, I'll open up for the public. Any public comment? Go ahead, Carla.
Carla Condon, 5132 Paradise Drive. I just wanted to make one comment that before we started the Intergenerational Center, we were doing this as sort of a proof of purpose. And one of the things that that there was conversation about was that if we could prove that there was a need for the center and that it was being used, that perhaps there might be consideration down the road to use Pet Club, and that would provide more space for the Intergenerational Center as well as Park and Rec classes, which right now is non-existent unless they go to the schools. So when you're doing the master plan, Pat,
Look at me.
you know, keep this in mind, all of you. If I know that Pet Club brings in financial support to the town, but as of from when we started up till February 6th of this year, we've had 9,178 visits to the Intergenerational Center. So it is really being used. It's not only being used by Corte Madera, but it's being used by every city in the county. And we're really running out of space. So if you could think of that, it is town-owned, and I felt that it would be appropriate to speak to it at this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I'll go ahead and close public comment. So where do we want to go from here? Do we want to let these recycle through one more meeting and maybe at the next meeting decide on 2 of these goals or 3 of these goals that we can tackle?
No, we're going to do them all. Aren't we going to do them all?
That's maybe where we need to have another discussion. What's that?
Let's go for it.
Do you think we can just do them all?
I mean, you might want to prioritize them, put them in order of,
Okay.
of which is most important, and then, you know, that whole box of things that are urgent, but things that are important versus things that are important and not urgent.
Okay.
Like, to me, the bathrooms kind of feels like an urgent situation, just to at least make them not so that we are absolutely ashamed to walk into them. I haven't actually been in a bathroom for a couple of years. I'm going to go check them out. I'm going to check them out.
It
and
hasn't
see.
changed at all.
They're bad.
It's just gotten
So we're back thinking, do we
worse.
want to leave all these on here then?
It would be hard to pick one to take off. I mean, I
Okay.
think it's all important things to look at.
Okay.
And something we discussed in the past that we don't have to decide tonight is that it would be helpful if we had a schedule that showed when certain items are going to be up for this group and when we are hoping to have a vote on something that actually needs to be voted on from us to get approved for Public Works or for Parks, and then when it would go in front of Town Council. So if we want to start taking on all these things, getting them on some kind of predictable calendar where we can see what all the steps are, and then we'll know whether or not we're on track or it's something that we should put into the next fiscal year. It would be good to get them in that format, I think.
Okay. I guess the other thing is if we have these as goals, do we need like a commissioner to kind of champion that one goal? Or do we just want to do it as a group?
Which goal?
Oh, if we want to take them all
Oh,
on.
like everyone, they only stay on as somebody who's willing to take them on as a champion?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, is that the
That'd be a good
direction
idea.
we should go? Because otherwise, not that things fall through the cracks. Do we want to handle these as a whole, goals, or do we want to do things, kind of like what we did?
Can we just tell RJ to do them all?
Kind of like what we did with you with the master plan, where we had you and Eileen kind of like overseeing the master plan. Do we want to do the same thing with these other goals, or do we just want to handle it on a commission basis?
What do you
I
think,
mean,
RJ?
something like
Oh, sorry.
the bathrooms might need like 1 or 2 people on this committee to step up and say, you know what, we are going to
Push.
make this our thing.
I think having those small subgroups or a single person spreads the load of what we all do, and it
Right.
puts focus and drive behind those things. So I think that is a good plan, a good way to do it. It doesn't have to be every single item, but in general, I think things get done where someone can take a few hours and focus and then share what they learned with everyone.
Right, and this way they can liaison with staff at the same time also.
Right.
So do we want to decide that tonight? Do we want to let these kind of just recycle through one more meeting? Anybody's thoughts? I don't want to just go down the list and start going, Emily, you take
No,
this.
I'm taking
Nate, you're
Eastfield.
this.
Well, I've
I
got
already
town
have my
park, I've got
projects.
town park master
got the
plan.
field.
Town park master plan and Madera Center. And I'd also like to be involved in evaluation of town-owned properties. So I'd like to work on those two.
Okay,
I don't know if we want to do that.
Maybe we
Bathrooms.
give it some thought, everyone gives it some thought, and then we come back the next meeting when, you know, Ashley's on board and we kind of do it that way.
okay, why don't we go ahead and do that? Okay,
Okay.
so we'll recycle through one more meeting, kind of refine the list, recycle through one more meeting. One other thing on these items too, I like to say, because it dawned on me, that it may not, it's a semi-goal. I don't think we do a very good job either on a commission level, as far as doing PR when we do things. In other words, you kind of brought it up. We redid the whole basketball court. There was no PR on any of that saying the basketball court was redone or anything. I just think when we start,
Nextdoor
hold on.
and said,
I just
"Come
think
on
when we
down."
start going through projects, we need to do PR and start promoting that, hey, we have a new basketball court. You know, or when we open up the dog park, I think, again, just my 2 cents, we should do that on a Saturday, almost have a grand opening,
ribbon cutting?
see if we can tie in with Pet Club because they're right there, or VIP that does the medical type stuff for dogs. I think we need to have more fanfare depending on what we're doing, just to promote that, hey, we're making accomplishments. And I think that also spreads community-wide. It's something, can't remember his name, McPherson said before, it's a community awareness, like going, hey, your tax dollars are being used, but I think we need to start promoting stuff.
I agree.
Julie just said the chamber will do a mixer at the dog park.
With dog treats. Okay, with that, moving to 5D, which is a mouthful, update and direction to staff regarding exploration of a possible partnership between Lions Club, Redwood High School Design Install. Thanks a lot, RJ, appreciate it. Install a mural on the walls of the Warnham Drive underpass. This was continued from the last meeting. Basically, this was an idea that I had come up with for the Lions to see if we could partner with Redwood High School. When you go, I'll say, from Andy's Market to Bayside on the right-hand side under the overpass, it's a big blob of cement. So the idea was to see if the Lions could partner with, thank you, Lions can partner with Redwood High School art program and see if we can get a mural in there.
Show them too.
And I know,
Show them too.
I believe Pat mentioned it before where, you know, we would somehow have it themed, you know, related to Corte Madera nature, so it's not just a free-for-all type thing. But it would be like a true community event where, you know, the Lions are partnering with the town in a sense, because the town semi-owns the underpass there, Redwood High School, so it would be all-encompassing. So I don't know if you have, I guess there's more to Caltrans.
Thank you, Chair Casissa.
than something that's easy.
I left this on the agenda with the hopes that I would have information to share with the commission. I didn't have information at the time of packet publication, but a lot of emails came in on Thursday and Friday. And those are before you and in the back of the room. And I will put them up on the website under late correspondence. But they did send, part of what is at your desk is the Caltrans District 4 Transportation Art Community Identification Proposal Instructions, application form, the guidelines for community art. And they said that they would consider an art proposal from the town of Corte Madera. They wanted to check with their structure maintenance and inspection office to ensure that the wall surfaces were allowed to be painted. So then they had a question about which wall, and that was the picture that they sent back, trying to confirm that that was the wall that the commission was interested in painting. And another diagram in that packet shows from Public Works Director RJ Succo, confirmed that the underpass is in Corte Madera jurisdiction because County, Larkspur, and Corte Madera all converge in that same location, as shown on the map in your packet. But we did confirm that the wall in question is Corte Madera. Although even if it were part Corte Madera and part Larkspur, because Redwood High School services both communities, I didn't see any concern with going forward with that project. But I wanted to leave this on the agenda. I know it's now getting late, but you can consider this take-home material to read through and see if that was something that you did want to embark on. He did say that he has to tell you we've been experiencing a long review process for the art proposal and maintenance agreement, and it may be a year before you and the town are cleared to apply for encroachment permit. We'll get back to you soon on the response about the wall surfaces being paintable or not. Please review the attached guidelines and proposal and let us know if you have any further questions. If you still wish to continue, we'll be more than happy to help. So, given those time constraints, it sounded like they would have to, if the proposal is approved, you and the town will then need to enter into a maintenance agreement for the artwork before an encroachment permit application would be submitted. So they said that we would need to have the town of Corte Madera sponsor the artwork and submit a transportation art proposal and artist copyright assignment and transfer agreement. Whew.
So
So there are some restrictions and hurdles, but it's doable. It's just, it's a process.
So in the overall process, theoretically, it sounds like the Lions would first have to team up with Redwood to come up with the design, do the design, come to Park and Rec Commission to get semi-approval on the design.
Correct.
At which time, if the design gets approved, this would have to be filled out by the town?
Correct.
Okay, and then it would probably have to go to town council for final approval if there's like a maintenance agreement in here? Okay. Okay, so now we're looking at 2 years.
That is the timeline.
Okay.
And those kids will have graduated.
It'd have to be the kids that are going to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, mine will be out of college.
But it is a worthwhile project to consider. It would beautify the space. We do get, now that we understand who has maintenance responsibility for that, the town Public Works Department does try to catch up with graffiti as soon as it's up there. But there was a time before it was understood who was maintaining that wall, and we would get quite a few calls into the office complaining about the graffiti, the explicit nature of the graffiti, the fact that the graffiti had been there for weeks or months. So it is an eyesore for people to have to go and look at the graffiti, and I think a mural would beautify the space.
Okay, so it sounds like we don't need to put this on the agenda until such time Lions comes back with the plan.
Correct.
But
okay. given the timeline put forth, is that something that you would want to work on behind the scenes?
Okay. Okay.
And then come back with updates as necessary. We'd probably have to sponsor an art contest or some kind of mural proposal.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we open it for public comment? Okay, any public comment? No? Okay, I'll close public comment. Thanks for doing the legwork on this, by the way. And if I have this right, Larkspur, Corte Madera, and Marin County all merge at one point, so is that called like Three Corners?
We could call it Three Corners.
Three Corners.
We do not have a name.
Okay. Moving it along, any update from staff?
I have just a point to bring up. I've been approached by quite a few people asking about summer playground and if it's been canceled because they haven't seen any information on it. And people sign up for summer camps in January and February. And so the fact that summer playground isn't out there, I think is a problem. And I've had 4 people tell me that they went on the website and the only link to summer playground they can find is from like 2017 or, you know, an old one. So there's no like new link for this upcoming year.
I know it's coming soon. I don't know if it's in the next week or two, but Dave Wilkinson just mentioned it to me today.
I know, I think in upcoming years, it needs to be probably out there at the end of January. Otherwise, we're going to miss a lot of people.
I know Dave probably has a lot on his plate, but he may want to see if he can expedite it, given the comments. I don't know where he's at with the process, but even a week seems like a long time for what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it should have been up a month ago.
It should have been up a month ago. And, you know, we get weekly emails from the schools, and there are links at the bottom to different programs and stuff. And, you know, in the like January, February emails, there are links to all of these different summer camp options and, you know, just trying to get it out there and get it out there at the end of January.
I'll get a definite date and get back to the commission with that. I know that Shanad has been in the office for the last month and a half to 2 months, putting all the pieces in play for putting together the staff and the programming. The last update I had was that they were getting together special weekly events for each of the weeks. I just don't know when registration is opening. And I know it is soon, and we'll find out.
It sounds like what you're saying too is that there may have been a lost opportunity because if people went in there and usually they go but they don't see it,
Yep, so
and
they
if there's
signed up
no
for other
awareness,
camps.
they may go, we're going somewhere else just because they need to have something.
We're still the best deal in the county, though.
We're definitely the best deal in the county, and it's, it's a great opportunity. But there are a lot of people, they really need to get their camp schedule set.
Yeah.
It's a giant moving puzzle for a lot of people.
Maybe just a little thing coming soon, sorry for the delay, signups coming soon or something, so that
Yeah.
they don't think it's not happening. That's a good idea.
Commissioner reports, February Town Council meeting. The only thing there was that they approved a recreation coordinator? Or does it have to cycle through one more meeting?
It's a 2-meeting process.
Okay, can you just give a brief description? High level.
Oh, man, brief. Recreation coordinator was a position that used to exist. And then in 2014, they had 2 recreation coordinator positions. One person, I think, left the town for another job opportunity, and one was reclassified to recreation supervisor. And then the recreation coordinator position dropped. And the recreation coordinator position was meant as a sort of a higher than recreation assistant, sort of operating the programming and entering all of the course descriptions and finding classes and implementing classes and coming up with new and exciting program opportunities for youth, for seniors, for the developmentally disabled. And we do currently have a recreation assistant on staff that is being targeted for reclassification into the recreation coordinator position.
Okay, thanks.
Just a quick question on that. Are teen programming part of that person's responsibility? You mentioned elderly and
yes,
disabled and
everybody.
Teen, okay.
For all age levels. And actually teen, I was speaking with Erin about that, and teen programming is something that the town is currently lacking in abundance. So
Yeah.
she's already looking for opportunities for that.
Great.
Executive Advisory Committee didn't meet. ICG Programming Ad Hoc Committee is on hiatus. Any individual commissioner reports? No?
2 little things.
Little.
Little things. So the Marin Environmental Forum has been using our recreation center for their big county-wide meetings, and it's really great because we get lots of people from all over the county there. And I had a request from them for 2 months in a row now, because I go to these things, that they really need a spotlight so that they can show the slides and have somebody talking to the microphone, and the person's not totally in the dark. And I think it'd be a good investment
We
overall.
actually have a spotlight. I spoke with Dave Wilkinson about that this morning, and I mentioned your request. And he wondered if anybody from the group had actually talked about their needs with the staff, because they do have a spotlight, and it would require somebody being on a ladder and getting it adjusted to the right spot and knowing where they were going to put the podium. But
It may be Mario's absence that
yeah,
may
it is.
not
It is
happen.
something that they have, and it is something that can be worked out before the next meeting. They just need to know where and have the time to adjust it.
Great. And then just one other thing. I don't know if the commission wants to be involved in this, but in my involvement with the San Geronimo project and the No on Measure D campaign, I've come in contact with some conservation groups that are very interested in taking on the pond at the Corte Madera Inn as a pro bono project to increase its aesthetics and its habitat validity. And I'm just wondering, does this come under Parks and Rec
It
or
doesn't
not?
come-
I think so.
It's not Park and Rec.
Okay,
Thanks.
okay. I just wondered,
That's okay.
because it seems, like it's
Anybody
sort
else?
of in the range.
Okay, routine other matters. If there's any future agenda items, let myself, I want to say Rebecca and/or Ashley on the 17th know.
And if there's more items that you want to discuss about future goal setting planning, we can add them.
Okay. Any other comments? No? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.